Finally, we have got an F1 2017 actual trailer. No more classic car, 1 minute long trailers of just panning shots of classic cars. We've actually got a hype trailer for F1 2017 at the perfect time, I feel, because the community, especially on Twitter, has been getting very, very restless over this last week about having an actual trailer drop with actual 2017 content involved in it. And finally, we've got that trailer. Before I get into it and before anyone stupidly comments, no, I'm not going to be playing the full trailer here in the video. I'm not going to be showing the sound off because, one, there are no engine sounds anyway, so there's no point, and two, the song's copyrighted. So this is literally just going to be a frame-by-frame trailer breakdown. Says it on the title, so don't be mad if you came here just to watch the trailer in full. You can just go over to Codemasters on their channel and see it in full if you want to actually hear the song. But it's a copyrighted song, so I can't play it in full. But we've got it here, opened up. We're going to go frame by frame here and basically just give any thoughts that we can do on the trailer. Overall, as a hype trailer, I think it turned out very, very well. So kudos to Codemasters. You actually pulled it out of the bag a little bit with this one. I'm not going to lie, I wasn't the biggest fan of like the 12 million different classic trailers. I just thought it was a little bit overkill, over the course. I would have rather had more trailers like this, and hopefully they will be doing more trailers like this in the next month. Obviously, we're less than a month now away from the game coming out on August the 25th. So let's get into it then. So it starts off from fading from black straight into this shot of Abu Dhabi. Now, as we go through the frames, it basically goes from night to day. So obviously, this first part of the trailer, they're kind of just showing off the usual day to night kind of transitions. Monaco. This is Monaco in the night. It's not, you can't see it for very long. There you go. That's one frame. So that's Monaco in the night. If you don't know, we can actually drive the Grand Prix under floodlights in the night time, which is going to be so cool. That's going to be like one of the first races I want to try and do on the game, because it's going to look so cool. So we've got that kind of day to night transition now of Monaco. So I'm guessing and hoping that you can do that full transition of going from day to night for like a race or something like that, because they've kind of shown it in the trailer here, going from full night, then you got kind of the dusk kind of half and half, and then you got the full, obviously the what we've got right now is the full kind of daytime there, but you can see that's the usual stuff. Monaco looking grand as ever. Then we move it through to the actual cars, and we get met with this first kind of onboard shot from the Toro Rosso, Fiat's Toro Rosso here. Now, straight off, thankfully, they've actually got the VTB sponsors for the Russian Grand Prix. You can see on screen, you've got it right here. And here, I believe in 2016, I think it was literally just the F1 2016 logo, unfortunately. So they've got that going for them. You can see clearly they don't have the actual big numbers yet. What you'll see in this trailer and at launch is the cars will launch as they were in Australia, pretty much. So if you look back at the Australian Grand Prix in the real life season, that's what the cars will launch as. Generally, then they try as quick as they can to bring out a patch to bring them up to speed. It could be a day one patch. It'd be absolutely brilliant if it could be a day one patch. If it's not, I would guess at least within the first month or so, they'll bring a patch to update the cars to probably, like, I would say, I don't know, like the latest spec would be, I'm guessing it would be around now, like Silverstone, maybe Italy, Hungary, maybe around that kind of spec, I would guess. But you can kind of tell because the McLaren here doesn't have the T-wing. Obviously, the McLaren now has that kind of circular T-wing. It does not. Later in the trailer, we'll see the Mercedes, the Ferrari, and the Haas cars, and the Williams car do have the T-wing, so that's kind of in line with what they were at Australia. But the Toro Rosso looking lovely as ever. Definitely one of the cars I may be considering for a career mode there, so because it just looks lovely on the onboard. But we move through there. Again, the track kind of, obviously it's a cinematic trailer, but it looks a little bit less cartoony than it did in 2016. Like, I feel like they've gone that little step, as I said, towards a bit more cinematic vibe. But obviously, that could just be the trailer itself. So as we move on then, now we move on to Spain. We can see Vettel going into turn one. You got Hamilton there, Bottas. Then you got, quite interestingly, they've actually, they've bothered to kind of make it kind of realistic, I guess. You got Hulkenberg here, and then you got Jay Palmer just all the way over there in the background there. So they've got that nice difference there. You got 2 Force Indias, 2 Red Bulls. So I don't know. I think they would have obviously kind of they can code the race on screen however they want, but maybe this gives us some sort of inkling as to the pecking order, maybe. So you got obviously Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull close behind, Force India, one of the Renault cars. You got a Toro Rosso, one of the Saubers, the 2 Williams cars, sort of neck and neck there. And then as we go into turn one, you can just see obviously it's a little bit blurry because a lot of these shots are gonna be blurry because they've put a lot of cinematic blur on it, unfortunately. But you can clearly see there just that little line of white. That's the Ferrari T-wing there, and then we'll see in later shots, you can see the Mercedes T-Wing as well. But then we move on to the next shot of the Circuit of the Americas, clearly, the USA Grand Prix. Now, this is interesting because this brings us on to a very kind of big part, I guess you could say, of the game in terms of the tracks. They've redone some of the tracks. Like, when I say redone, they've, like, completely redone them in some cases. Like, Suzuka, they've completely redone. Suzuka is absolutely awesome now on the game. I don't think we get to see too much of it in this trailer. But also here at COTA, look at this now. If we move just the mouse from... This is obviously the triple right-hander, which kind of copies Turkey, just backwards in the right-hander, coming out of the stadium section. Just, if you just follow the mouse, just... There is that kind of apparent undulation here into this dip. Whereas if you go back into F1 2016 and go through this corner, which is the second last corner, there's really not that much elevation. You can't really feel the elevation there. Whereas now I feel like, you know, you can see clearly the car is going from the left and it's really dipping in to this left-hander. So I think they've redone COTA here at the end at least, and maybe around the circuit to give a bit more elevation change and give a bit more kind of sense of that elevation change in COTA, which is a big feature of COTA because obviously it's got that big-ass turn 1. You know, you've got the kind of Maggots and Beckett section in Sector 1, which is always ever-changing. So I think that they've done well to redo some of the circuits. For sure, they definitely have done Suzuka, which was something we played early in March when we tested the game. And Suzuka Sector 1, oh my god, it's like leaps and bounds better than it ever was in the previous iterations of it in the game. And as we come through, finally we do get a bit of focus, a little bit lack of blur, and we can see the Renault in all its glory in focus there of Nico Hulkenberg, and then the Williams car. Before anyone asks, if you're new to the F1 games, the reason why there's no red there is because they can't do alcohol sponsoring for Martini there. It's basically the Williams spec like they would run in Abu Dhabi, basically. So just in case anyone was wondering, you know, I know there's always sometimes new viewers who aren't familiar with how the F1 games work. They can't have that. They haven't had that for about, you know, since Williams had that Martini livery since 2014. They just can't do it. They can't get the licensing for it because also they would lose their PEGI 3 rating, I believe, as well. But also you can see the Williams car. You can see on the left-hand side T-Wing there. Renault, no T-Wing. Obviously, Renault didn't run a T-Wing on Hulkenberg's car around the British Grand Prix, but you can see the Williams car does have it. So, again, confirmation. It is the Australia spec, and nice to see a little bit of glowing brake disc there. Always nice to see they're adding little bits and bobs like that. Just finer details, really, into the game. Now we move on to some rain. Once again, Australia spec, because the Haas car doesn't have this red kind of part of the livery anymore. It's now all kind of, you know, white, grey, and kind of black, basically. One thing, actually, I will point, actually, on this is I saw a few people on Twitter going out on about it, and I do kind of agree with it, is the front, a lot of people are pointing out the front wings do look quite high on the cars. Like, if you compare it to real life, the front wings are quite low. The only explanation that I've seen from people, and that I would agree with, is the fact that I think in the game, every car has to have a standard rake, like a flat rake. If you don't know what rake means, it's basically the angle the car sits on its tyres and suspension at. And basically, I think in the game, they've got it all flat. Whereas in real life, a lot of the teams run positive rake towards the front. More so Red Bull than any other team. You'll see Red Bull is pretty much like, I'll try and explain it on the webcam, but basically if this is the rear end, this is the front end, Red Bull kind of have it like almost like that, like extremely tilted forward. So it's literally moving along, tilted forward like that. So in the game, I believe, just because the way they set up the car to go around the circuit, and for whatever reason, for the physics of the game and the game engine they use, they can't put the rakes on the cars. And even when you adjust, I think you can adjust the rake heights in the setup, but it still doesn't actually visually change it, which is a little bit of a shame. But I mean, I think it's just so it just doesn't break their physics engine, I guess. Then we move on to our onboard shot offset again to the Red Bull car. We've seen that before in the Max Verstappen trailer, but now we can see the Force India there on the right hand side. Then we get a bit of a cockpit shot here. They've got the same kind of dial in the steering wheel, the same thing. The reason why they do that is because obviously they need to try and match the heads-up display that's displayed when you're racing. The heads-up display on the right-hand side, they need to match that up to the wheel, basically, because if you're doing cockpit cam, you need the same information that you would do if you were running with the heads-up display on the right-hand side there. But nice little onboard in-car shot of the Red Bull there, and then we get a lovely little shot of the Ferrari, which I'm sure a lot of Ferrari fans will be eager to kind of see what their beloved Ferrari looks like. So Ferrari looking sweet as ever. I've said it from the start when the cars first came out. I love the fact you've got these little kind of basically horns coming out of the cars, and they just add that little extra kind of zhuzh, I guess you could say, riding on board with the cars. And then it's kind of interesting for me that you can actually very much see the T-wing. You can see the T-wing very much from on board. Like, I thought maybe because the cars are going so fast, you won't be able to really see it. It might blur out a little bit, but no, it's very apparent. You can see those ugly T-wings. I mean, I say ugly because a lot of people say they're ugly. I don't really care too much, but yeah. And then we go on to a rear-end shot of the McLaren here, and again, unfortunately, they do not have sponsorships, it looks like, for Silverstone, so you can see they've got the 2017 logo, basically. It's basically when they can't get the licensing for either the car, like the Williams, or the track. I'm hoping in future years to come, Liberty Media, you know, we've seen how good Liberty Media have been recently. I'm hoping they could get their finger out their arses and kind of help Codemasters in that department and kind of help them a little bit getting the licensing for some of these things. Just kind of bring the game up to fully, it's the official F1 game, so hopefully Liberty Media can kind of help smooth that over and get all the official sponsors available. Then we just go through again, little rear shot of Canada. We go very, very close to the Haas car with the T-wing in full fidelity there, rendered out. And then we move this, I kind of like this half onboard shot of Alonso, because I feel like, obviously, yes, it's a trailer, but I think the car looks a little bit more rendered. Obviously, it may be different on consoles. Unfortunately for you guys that do play it on PS4 and Xbox, it will never be as rendered as it may do on a trailer or PC. But I think that the Logitech logo and the helmet look a bit more up to scratch, like you would see maybe with some high-res mods on PC. I think that's just my opinion. Obviously, it will be lower res on the console, unfortunately. Then we move on to a safety car shot. Nothing really else to say. Safety car shot, and then a bit more of well, we move on here, a little bit more in focus. Again, you can see the number is not in white, so that will be the Australia spec once again. But the Ferrari looking lovely as ever as we move through. And then we move on to a bit of a, well, I guess you could say Instagram filter kind of part of the trailer, where we get onto the classic cars then. So, obviously, before anyone kind of asks, no, I don't think when you drive the classics, it's going to look like this. I think that's just for the trailer's sake of it's classics, so that's what the classics look like, it's the classic part of the trailer. But very surreal, very awesome actually to see all the classic cars in one shot. Like this little shot here, you can see the Renault, the Ferrari in the background. You can see just there the McLaren there. It's nice to see, and this is nice. Through Monaco, I've always said in many career mode videos, this is a lovely panning shot anyway. To see such a famous car, Senna's McLaren, the MP44, go through that part of the circuit with a few other classics following behind is very sweet. That's very, very sweet. Very, very cool. And then running on board with the Ferrari car, you can see Fernando Alonso's Renault sparking away there at Austria, looking awesome as ever. And then this, for me, obviously, the McLaren of Lewis Hamilton that he won his first championship with. Absolute rocket ship of a car there, looking hella cool with all the kind of aerodynamic plumage, as you could say. We get a nice little close-up there. What a car. Lovely, lovely looking car. I love these rocket ship looking cars. Move through Silverstone there. Onboard shot of the Renault. So some of you guys who are fans of the Renaults will be very, very interested in that. Obviously, Fernando Alonso's Renault. And then I think this is Italy, I'm sure. I think this is Italy. Yeah, that's Italy. And then, oh, lovely. Magnussen going for a spin on the grass there in the Haas. And then there. Codemasters, you've done Palmer dirty here. I mean, the community already took the piss out of him enough, but you've done Palmer dirty. Well dirty here. The only driver who features a massive shunt in the game hits the tyre wall, and the tyre wall quite nicely bellows up with the car smashing into that, but yeah, you've just done him dirty there. You really have. And then we move on to, I think that's Bottas overtaking the Red Bull car at Austria. Move on to, what's that? Bahrain. Again, they've got the Gulf Air this time instead of the Rolex, but you can see it's Vettel, Hamilton, Bottas, Raikkonen, 2 Red Bulls behind. Then I can see, we can see Force India, Toro Rosso, Hulkenberg's Renault. I think that's a Williams car. Then the Haas, so little inkling maybe of the pecking order in the game at least. Again, with the performance, that'll be another thing. The performances will probably be to Australia spec, and then they'll update the performances. So things like maybe the Williams dropping off in pace will not be in the game until a later update perhaps, and then maybe if we won't get like the McLaren engine updates maybe on the base game until they update them later in patches. rear end of the McLaren car. Kimi, that's a nice shot. That's a nice shot. So Ferrari Kimi fans will be happy with that one. That's a nice shot of the Ferrari car, looking lovely as ever with the, I think this is that Singapore? I think that's Singapore with the kind of, because it's got that kind of purple glow to it. I think that's Singapore. Then this is obviously Bahrain with the Red Bull car chasing after the Toro Rosso. And then you've got a pit stop for the Sauber, a bit more rain, Hamilton, lots of panning cars as we get through to the end of the trailer. Vettel's helmet there with a few little dots, kind of like his Australia design. Spa, that's a lovely shot. That's a lovely shot. Monaco in the night, baby. That is a sweet shot. I said it again. It's worth saying again. That's one of the first races I'm doing. Monaco night, looking like that. Thank you very much. Yes. Yes, Codemasters. That's definitely what I want to do. Look how sweet that looks. It looks so good. Monaco at night. Why haven't they done this before and earlier? It looks so sweet. It looks so good. So good. Then you got Kota, Massa, again, battling Hulkenberg like we saw earlier. And this is cool. This is cool. We finally got a shot of the podium. So is this maybe the new podium cutscenes from the game? As I said already, I think they've stepped it up again, even on the podiums. From 2015 to 2016, let's be real. Honestly, they didn't do too much to the podium sequences, but now it looks like they've redone them a little bit, and they look sweet. They look sweet. Vettel looks very realistic, actually, there. And the same with Hamilton and Ricciardo, really. That looks like a much more improved podium shot, I would say. And the champagne, you know, the liquid physics, I think they look a little bit better. Just a little bit. Move on to, this is, I think that's, is that Ricciardo's helmet? Yeah, Ricciardo celebrating a win. Hamilton through Mexico at this stadium section. And then we move on to, for the last, obviously they would kind of tend to the Ferrari. There's obviously a large Ferrari fan base, so obviously the last shot would have to be, obviously, Vettel celebrating. I think this is that Abu Dhabi? I think that's Abu Dhabi. I'm surprised they didn't make him do the finger. I would have thought that right at the end there, with the right fist, it would have been the finger there to kind of finish it off. But that's the end of the trailer then, and then it's make history, 25th of August. I just want to point out, it's been pointed out on Twitter as well, Codemasters, if you're watching, one of the community managers, I just want to point out that I put make history as my driver 2017 season title for my trailer. So where's the royalties, mate? Where's the royalties? I predicted your slogan. Either they've had some inspiration, or I literally got the crystal ball out again and I predicted the make history, because literally my driver 2017 season has make history as the trailer title for how I summed up that kind of season. So I got the crystal ball out once again, wizard arrow out in full force. But there you go, that is the trailer for F1 2017. Thankfully, finally a hype trailer. If Codemasters, if you guys are watching, please, can we see just way more trailers like this? I appreciate that, yes, a lot of casual fans would be interested in classic cars. I was hyped about classics, but that kind of weared off after the third trailer, because I wanted to see the 2017 stuff. We want to see the main bit of the game, and the classic cars. I know there's a lot of worry maybe from people watching that the classics are the main bit of the game. Trust me, they're not, because what I played in the early testing, it definitely is not. They've done a lot to career mode. Career mode is better than ever. Once again, they've made another step up there, and you know, they need to show it off. So hopefully they do have some more trailers showing that stuff off. Perhaps, you know, I'm not opposed to coming in and doing some commentary for you guys if you want to make a career mode trailer. I mean, I think it needs that. You know, we've seen other games like Need for Speed do commentated trailers, which work really, really well. I think at this point, with less than a month to go, I think that's what they need. Let me know if you do agree with that in the comments below, guys. But yeah, if you have enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Let me know about anything in that trailer. If you're pumped, if you're excited, if you're not, then do let me know as well. But let me know any of the thoughts you are thinking in your brains right now in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I've been over. See you guys next time.